and we're in the funeral chapter. And we've reached where the author says, may Allah have mercy upon him. وَاثْنَانِ لَا يُغَسَّلَانِ وَلَا يُصَلَّى عَلَيْهِمَا. There are two who are neither bathed, that means not given ghusl, nor prayed for. الشهيد في معركة الكفار والسقط الذي لم يستهل. The martyr in the battlefield against the disbelievers, and the stillborn who did not shout. So that's the copy I'm reading. The copy I'm sharing with you says, وَاثْنَانِ لَا يُغَسَّلَانِ وَلَا يُصَلَّى عَلَيْهِمَا. There are two who are not washed nor prayed for. الشهيد في معركة المشركين, the martyr in battle against the pagans, in particular, mushrikeen. Copy I'm reading for you is معركة الكفار والسقط الذي لم يستهل صارخا. And the stillborn who did not raise his voice shouting. So my copy says والسقط الذي لم يستهل, and the stillborn who did not raise his voice. الشرح, the explanation. اعلم أن الشهيد يصدق على كل من قتل ظلما. Know that shaheed, martyr, is applicable to everyone who was killed unrightfully. أو مات بغرق, or died by drowning. أو حرق, or by burning. أو هدم, or by a building collapsing upon him. أو مات مبطونا, or he died by sickness in his stomach. أو مطعونا, or he died from the plague. الطعون. أو مات عشقا مع العفة والكتمان, or even if someone died out of love, but while being chaste and suppressing, while being chaste and suppressing. Yani, like not talking about the issue. أو كانت امرأة وماتت في الطلق, or a woman who died in delivery. She died from the contractions. ومع صدق أنهم شهداء, and despite that, it's true that all of these are martyrs. فهؤلاء يغسلون ويصلى عليهم كسائر الموتى. These are all washed, all given a ghusl and prayed for like the rest of the dead. And there are even more types of martyrs than what we have mentioned. أما من مات في قتال الكفار. But concerning whoever died while fighting the disbelievers. So that means we're not talking about someone who died fighting Muslims, fighting Muslim insurgents. Someone who died on the side of the good guys, with the just caliph, fighting against Muslim rebels who are unjust, and then he died. We're not talking about this one. بسبب القتال. We're talking about someone who died fighting disbelievers, and he died because of the fighting. على الوجه المرضي. He died in the acceptable way. فهذا شهيد. This one is a martyr. كمن قتله مشرك في القتال. Like someone slain by a pagan while fighting. أو أصابه سلاح مسلم خطأ, or he was killed by friendly fire. A Muslim's weapon hit him mistakenly. He's still a martyr of the battlefield. أو عاد عليه سلاح نفسه, or his weapon backfired and he was killed by his own weapon. أو سقط عن فرسه, or he fell from his horse. أو رمحته دابته, or his animal broke his neck. أو تردى في وهدة فمات, or he fell into a ditch and he couldn't get out and he died. سواء في ذلك البالغ والصبي والحر والعبد والرجل والمرأة. And it doesn't matter whether this person were pubescent or prepubescent or free or slave or man or woman. فلا يغسل ولا يصلى عليه. Such a person would not be washed nor prayed for. كما روى البخاري عن جابر رضي الله عنه. As Al-Bukhari narrated from Jabir, may Allah accept from him, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يغسل قتلى أحد ولم يصلي عليهم. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم did not wash the slain of Uhud, and he did not pray for them. وأما من مات حال معركة الكفار. Now concerning someone who died during the battle against the disbelievers. لا بسبب القتال, but not because of the fighting itself. بل لمرض, rather he died due to sickness. أو فجأة, or he died suddenly. فالمذهب أنه ليس بشهيد. Then the school, the Shafi'i school, is that this one is not a martyr. ولو جرح في القتال ومات بعد القتال. ولو جرح في القتال ومات بعد القتال. فإن قطع بموته من تلك الجراحة وبقي فيه حياة مستقرة بعد انقضاء الحرب ففيه خلاف. Now concerning someone who was wounded in the fight, and then he died after the fight, after the battle. If it is definitive that he died due to his wounds, however, he remained alive firmly after the battle was over. And he wasn't dying, he was alive, severely wounded, but alive stably. He was in stable life. But then after that, after the battle was done, he did die due to his wounds. Is this one a martyr or not? فَفِيهِ خِلَافٌ. There's difference in opinion about this one. What we're saying is he was in the battlefield, he was wounded, then he was taken out of the battlefield, and the battle concluded, it was over, and he was transported out of that battlefield alive, though he had wounds. And then he died after that, but due to the wounds that he sustained. So is he a martyr of the battlefield? Al-Azharu annahu laysa bishahid. What's most apparent is that he is not a martyr, a battlefield martyr. That he is not a battlefield martyr. And what this means is he's not given the treatment of one. Not that he isn't really one. If it's for sure he died from those wounds that he sustained in that battle, then he is truly a martyr. But he wouldn't be for those Muslims who are now having to take care of him. After this transition from the battlefield with stable life, then and then dying after that, then they're not going to deal with him as a martyr, even though he really is. That's the meaning of saying al-azharu as-sahihu al-azharu annahu laysa bi-shaheed. What's correct and most apparent is that he's not a martyr. This means not given the treatment of one. وَإِنْ قَصُرَ الزَّمَانِ, even if that were a short time. Yani, he was just transported out of the battlefield not too long ago, and then he died. وَإِنْ بَقِيَ أَيَّامًا فَلَيْسَ بِشَهِيدٍ بِلَا خِلَافٍ. And if he stayed alive for days, then he is not given the treatment of a battlefield martyr without any difference in opinion. So, if it were the case that after the battle concluded, this wounded one, he only lived as long as someone who's slaughtered would live. Yani, he lived as long as a dying person would live. Would He lived as long as someone who's dying would live. That means he's dying. Well, then this one who died after the battle was concluded, he is a battlefield martyr. واعلم أن ظاهر إطلاق المصنف يشمل الشهيد الجنوب وهو كذلك. And know that the author's open words, when he said the martyr, so he said it open like that, then this includes a martyr who was already sexually impure. That's what's included in the author's open words. وَهُوَ كَذَلِكَ. And that's true. So his words, they're being open and subject to that is not a problem because it actually is the case. فَلَا يُغَسَّلُ وَلَا يُصَلَّى عَلَيْهِ. So this one is not washed nor prayed for. وحجة ذلك أن حنظلة قتل يوم أحد. And the evidence for that is that Hanzala was killed on the day of Uhud. فلم يغسله النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And the Prophet did not wash him. May peace and blessings be upon him. وقال رأيت الملائكة تغسله. The Prophet said, I saw the angels washing him. فلو كان واجبا لم يسقط إلا بفعلنا. So had this been something obligatory, then the angels washing him would not suffice us from washing him. Had this been obligatory, yani, it's not that it's not obligatory because he saw the angels washing him. That's not what makes it not obligatory. Yes, the author's words, they are open with, and there's no criticism for what he said because it is the case. So the battlefield martyr is not washed. So فَلَا يُغَسَّلُ وَلَا يُصَلَّى عَلَيْهِ. He's not washed and he's not prayed for. وَحُجَّةُ ذَلِكَ. And the evidence for that, I just read all of that for you. فَلَوْ كَانَ وَاجِبًا. So had washing this dead Muslim been obligatory, لَمْ يَسْقُطُ إِلَّا بِفِعْلِنَا. It wouldn't have been dropped without us doing it, the humans. Seeing angels washing him is not what made it not obligatory to wash him. وَأَمَّا سِقُطُ بِتَثْلِيثِ السِّينِ. Now concerning the miscarriage, or the stillborn, not the miscarriage, the stillborn. This one is called siqat, or you can apply any of the three vowels here. So you could say suqut or saqut. Al-waladu nazilu qabla tamami. This one is the child who came out before his completion. وهو مأخوذ من السقوط فله حالتان. Yeah. This name, calling a stillborn a siqut. Why? It's taken from the word sukut. Sukut means falling or dropping. So he says, falahu halatan. So this stillborn has two cases. This is important. Al-ula an yastahil. One of those cases is that this newborn raises his voice in shouting. أي يرفع صوته بالبكاء. That is, he raises his voice to cry. أو لم يستهل. Or the other case is that this child did not cry or raise the voice after being born. ولكن شرب اللبن أو نظر أو تحرك حركة كبيرة تدل على الحياة ثم مات فإنه يغسل ويصلى عليه بلا خلاف. So the second is, so he said this stillborn has two cases. So the first is to come out and then raise his voice crying. Al-ula an yastahil. The first is for him to raise his voice. يرفع صوته بالبكاء, meaning he raises his voice crying. أو لم يستهل, or it could be that this newborn did not raise his voice. ولكن شرب اللبن ونظر أو تحرك حركة كبيرة. But although he didn't raise his voice, he drank the breast milk, or he looked around, or he did a big move. تدل على الحياة. He did a big move, a significant move that proves that he's alive. ثم مات, and then he died. فإنه يغسل ويصلى عليه بلا خلاف. This one, he would be washed and he would be prayed for without any difference in opinion. لأنه تيقنا حياته. This is because we were certain about his life. وفي الحديث, and it came in a hadith, إذا استهل الصبي ورث وصلي عليه. If the child raises his voice, إذا استهل الصبي, when the child raises his voice, this newborn, then he will inherit and he's prayed for. So that newborn's going to get some treatment like a grown person. رواه النسائي وصححه ابن حبان والحاكم. An-Nasa'i narrated this and Ibn Hibban authenticated it as well as Al-Hakim. وقال إنه على شرط البخاري. And he claimed that this hadith is authentic according to Al-Bukhari's standards. لكن قال النووي في شرح المهذب. However, An-Nawawi said in the explanation of Al-Muhadhab, ضعيف. This hadith is weak. الحالة الثانية, the second case, ألا تيقن حياته, is for his life to not be a matter of certainty. This newborn's being alive is not a matter of certainty. بألا يستهل, which would be by him not raising his voice. ولا ينظر ولا يمتص ونحوي. And he doesn't look around, and he doesn't suckle, and the likes of that. فينظر إن عري عن أمارة الحياة. So the situation is investigated. If this child is clear of any sign of life, كالاختلاج, like trembling, ونحوه, and the likes, فينظر أيضا, then something else would be investigated. إن لم يبلغ حدا ينفخ فيه الروح. If this one who came out of his mother never even reached the stage where the soul would be blown into him, وهو أربعة أشهر فصاعدا, which starts at 4 months and then beyond, لم يصلى عليه, then this one is not prayed for. ولم يغسل, and he's not washed. وإن بلغ أربعة أشهر فقولان. And if this fetus reached 4 months, there are two sayings. الأظهر أنه الأظهر أيضا لا يصلى عليه. What's most apparent is that this one also is not prayed for. ولكن يغسل على المذهب. However, according to the madhab, he would be bathed فإن لم تظهر فيه خلقة آدمي, and if no human form appears from what came out of the woman, ندب لفه بخرقة ودفنه, then it would be recommended to wrap up this one and then bury it.